So we're here at Content Marketing World with David Beebe, who's the CEO of Beebe Content Co. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what are you here to talk about?
This year I'm talking about brands as storytellers and really what it means to get into premium storytelling content. So if a brand really wants to explore that, they have to set up like a content studio. That could mean a lot of things. So today I'm going to be walking through what does it actually mean? What's the purpose of it? What kind of content makes up premium? And also getting into like the people, the process, who you should hire, how you should organize to actually have it be successful. So a lot of brands and publishers and media companies talk about doing content studios, but a lot of them fail because they really don't know why. So I'm going to start with that.
What is premium content?
Premium content to me, and I come from the entertainment business and television producing, so for brands that want to get into that, I would say that's brand films. It could be documentaries, it could be webisodes. It's something that is certainly driven by story, that has all those story attributes that you would expect, that looks, premium in a sense, and also has a very long shelf life, a very long tail to it, meaning it will serve the marketing purposes, it'll drive sales, and then it can actually go on to create revenue for the brand. Not what people think on the sales side, but how do you start thinking like a media company and producing content that people actually want to watch, that they're entertained by, and if you do that right, that's where you can actually transform really marketing from a cost center to a revenue center. So that's that premium content level.
Have you always been a storyteller?
I've always been interested and intrigued by stories. I'm a big reader. I've been curious, and I think that's what a lot of storytellers need to be. As a kid, I would take everything apart in the house. I always got in trouble. I got my first computer when I was like 12, so I was kind of a geek in that sense.
Yeah.
So that curiosity, and I think that's what drives, and that's where you find great stories too.
And what's your secret to creating award-winning content?
I think it just goes back to the consumer first, right? So many brands, when they get into trying to create premium any type of content, and I see it happen all the time, it's all about themselves. And not even meaning that the content talks about them in a features and benefits way, but when they start with their why and their purpose and the strategy behind it, they're thinking so internally, right? So what's my boss going to like? What's the CEO going to like? What's that kind of thing? Does it meet all your traditional sort of things on marketing check boxes? Right. Versus, what's the consumer? How do we know that our consumers are even interested in watching this type of content from us? And so I always say, start with that. Start consumer first. And if you do that, then hopefully you're going to develop and produce something that they actually want to watch, and then you can figure out and develop it creatively where the brand is a character in it and it's a part of the story naturally.
You also talk about the importance of finding the why of what you're doing. Like how do you get that?
It goes back to starting with the customer, right? Premium content studios, it's like the sexy thing, right? You can talk about your brands making a film, or we got a TV series, whatever it may be, and there's a lot of great brands that have done it, good, but a lot of people just get into it just to say that they're doing it.
Right.
It starts with sort of that purpose, but from a creative perspective, where I always go is, okay, you come with the idea, you have to think about distribution. So before we go any further, where are we going to put this thing? Right, and that's also part of the why and the how of it, but where is it going to go? How does it connect to everything else that we're doing? And before, no content should ever have a dead end. And so many people put out content that leads to nothing else. So it's like thinking about your whole ecosystem in a sense, and how it connects, how it all supports each other, and how it leads to something else.
Right. What are your sniff tests? Once you create something, how do you know if it's good?
I'm going to go back to, I'm going to say the consumer again, right? Working with brands, I say, let's take off your marketing hands, right? If imagine yourself as a consumer sitting at home watching something, would you watch this? Does it entertain you? Does it inform you? Does it provide value? And oftentimes, the answer is no. Because they're producing it, they're so entrenched in their day-to-day in that brand that they can't see it from the consumer lens.
Right.
So that's where we always kind of start out. And going back, how does it provide value? We talked about all content has to inform and entertain. If it doesn't do one of those two things, ideally both together, most likely people aren't going to engage with it.
How do you sell in the value of this kind of content production internally?
I go back to purpose, but also starting with, if you look at where we are, traditional media and interruption marketing, the numbers don't lie. Marketers love data, so I use the data and say 82% of people are skipping television spots. I forget the latest percentages, don't even banner ads are annoying. It's all this interruptive stuff because the brands and the agencies are trying to save this model that was built from TV nearly 70 years ago. And they're just trying to find different ways to annoy the consumer. So it goes back to that idea of how do you actually provide value without interrupting. And if you do that, and consumers understand that brands need to advertise, but they appreciate it if you do it in a way that provides value to them first, and then you're more likely to say, okay, now I'll let you advertise to me about features and benefits because you provided value. The value exchange begins.
Right. So you were named this year. You were named AdAge's 40 along.
I barely made the list.
A long list of
barely 1 year to go. Coming out.
A long list of industry accolades. So why do you think it's so successful?
I think it's part. Fortunate, right? To in my career work at companies, mostly big brands or media companies, at a time where there was a lot of change happening. And you talk about an exciting time to be in marketing and media. This is it. Right? It is changing so rapidly every day. And also work within smaller groups in those companies, right? And have great leaders that understand if we want to be relevant, we have to change. And give you that leeway to go out and explore. And that doesn't mean, go and throw everything out the door and stop before starting something from scratch. You can't do that. You have to implement it slowly and test and see what works. But I think a lot of it's been timing and also just going out and doing it. A lot of people how'd you do that, or how did this happen? I'm like, I just did it. I found a way to go do it. And you have to keep, it's that hustle, that entrepreneur life, You've got to just keep doing it. And when brands are even trying to do content, they're like, everyone wants to sit down and plan, and it's 6 months and 50 people have to review. I'm like, just go make something. Right? Just get a little budget, go try it, and see what works, because you're not going to know if it works. You can sit and talk about it all day and have all the planning meetings you want, but if you don't actually go and try things, you're never going to know. And so I always push people, just go do it. Even the smallest brands and some of the smaller companies that have small budgets can do a lot with little dollars if they're smart. So I say, you just got to try it.
What's your proudest moment?
There's so many. I think certainly at Marriott launching the content studio there, and all the brand films we did, and that's another example where the leadership said, we understand we need to change. So here's the leeway, here's the budget, go try it. Right? We'll give you that runway. So that was super exciting to be one of the first brands that really did that and really showcased how premium content could go on to make money from it. I think certainly at Disney ABC, we were the first network to launch full episodes. So it was full episode player, and a lot of live type stuff. Those were the days when YouTube was just starting. Right? I'll tell you, I don't know if it's on this, but I'll tell you one of the failures. It's a good question. See, I'm not going to myself.
That's a good one.
But I remember it when YouTube started. It's an important point for creators and brands. Is look at everything that's out there and understand how it works. Doesn't mean you have to jump on the platform, right? So, talking about is when YouTube started, I was at Disney ABC. We were running the digital studio, and all these creators, influencers, they don't like to call them influencers now, but YouTubers, whatever, started creating channels. At the time, it was literally kids in their basement. And we were the big bad media company, and I would say, those kids know about making content. Like we make TV, right? And so at that time we had our own video players, native players on the side. We were like inside YouTube, here's this thing, and because a lot of people were uploading and stealing content as well. So that was a stand for media company to take. Over those years, and now to today, those kids are now adults, right? And they have, in many cases, more subscribers than any media company, more influence, and they in themselves became media companies. Right? So it was sort of a lesson learned there was with everything that comes out to them, right? Every new platform, it's like, don't discount it. And even if it's competitive to you, or you quite don't understand how you work with it, it's important to sort of keep watching it and stay engaged.
What do you read to stay up to date and inspired?
I read so much, and I love magazines. Actually, I like Flipboard.
Yeah.
She didn't tell me to say that. That was like, that's legit, and it's true. Because I like reading books, but sometimes my attention span is a little short. So that's why I really like magazines and shorter articles. So it's all the things you would expect, the fast companies, the Inc, all of those types of magazines. Today there's so many content focused, AdAge, AdWeek, all of those. I love reading what's happening in the community. A ton of different sort of bloggers and just companies I follow, because you want just read other people's, point of view on stuff, whether you agree with it or not. And that's another thing you learn is that I find it actually interesting when people, essentially if I post something or someone posts something and there's a disagreement, it doesn't mean that the person's wrong. You can actually learn from that. So I actually enjoy having those healthy sort of debates, because you do learn a different perspective. So it's a ton of magazines and stuff. Cool.
And Flipboard's also one place for all your passions.
Where's that? See?
What's David passionate about?
Passionate about? I love travel. Naturally, I travel a lot with Marriott. And the reason for that is you just learn. Right? You're constantly learning and going back to the idea of different perspectives, different points of view. When you travel, you meet people that are different than you, from different cultures, and you learn. And so I think that's the exciting part. I'm a big industry geek, so I'm stuck in work mode and thinking. It's a problem. My brain doesn't shut off sometimes. Because it's always thinking about reading or thinking about something else. But it's also important at times to sort of unplug as well. Right? So I try to do that and sort of just get outdoors. I grew up on a rural farm, so I spent a lot of time hiking, exercise, trying to stay active in that sense, because it's another way to sort of unplug from your day-to-day, and also exercise your brain. Get a different perspective.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.